The Courting of Harry Potter by Diana Williams. Chapter 12, Muddying the Water. Harry was relieved that the robes he wore hid a number of sins. He was even more relieved that the corridors were deserted, as he had a feeling that he looked decidedly disheveled, something his robes couldn't hide. At the moment, he didn't particularly care, as long as he could get safely tucked up in his bed before anyone saw the grin on his face. Tucked up in his bed where he could relive those few moments on the stairs. Of course, nothing in his life had ever been that easy, and this was no exception. Although the common room was mostly empty, his fellow Gryffindors obviously waiting till the last moment to make curfew, he should have known that one person would already be there. A person with notoriously sharp eyes to boot. Harry sighed. "Hello, Hermione," he said resignedly. Hermione's eyes widened. "Harry! What happened to you? You look like you've been..." Her voice broke off. "Which one of them did it?" she said, an ominous tone to her voice. Harry gave her a little rueful smile as he sat down on the sofa. "Both." Hermione's eyes widened. "Both? You're telling me that both Professor Spindlyworm and Professor Snape assaulted you?" "No one assaulted me," Harry said. "Max kissed me, and I kissed Severus, and then he kissed me back." Hermione frowned. "Snape kissed you? That seems so unlike him." "Well, I was teasing him about Max kissing me. It was revenge, I suppose." "Now that I can believe," she muttered. "Why were you teasing him?" "Because he said he wouldn't have sex with me," Harry said, as if it was the most reasonable thing in the universe. Hermione stared at him, speechless, for a long moment. "Let me see if I understand this. Professor Snape was discussing the terms of his proposed contract with you, correct?" Harry nodded. "And he said that you wouldn't have to have sex with him." Harry nodded again. "So you just jumped him because you want to have sex with him?" Harry considered that for a moment. "I don't know if I want to have sex with anybody. I just wanted to see if kissing Severus would be the same as kissing Max." "And was it?" Hermione asked curiously, then shuddered at the mental image of Snape in a clinch with anyone, especially Harry. "Never mind, I don't think I want to know." She gestured at the book lying on the table in front of her. "I finished your mother's book, Harry. It's very good, actually. It'll need a bit of updating, though." She paused. "Did you know that Professor Snape made some editing comments in it?" Harry nodded. "There's a note at the back from him. He said that he would help me get it published." Hermione looked up at him, her eyes shadowed with worry. "Harry, you're not thinking of accepting him just to get your mother's book published, are you?" Harry was silent, and she sighed. "Oh, Harry, you are such a Gryffindor!" Harry gave her a wry smile. "The hat wanted to put me in Slytherin, actually. Said I'd do well there." Hermione looked surprised for a moment, then amused. "Poor Professor Snape doesn't realize how narrow his escape was." Harry put on a look of mock annoyance. "Are you implying that I'm trouble?" "Implying? No, I'm saying it flat out." They laughed, and then Hermione propped her head on her hand as she studied him with the intensity she usually reserved for her books. "Harry, have you thought seriously about what you want to do after you finish school?" Harry groaned. "Not you two. Everyone is asking me that. Professor McGonagall, the headmaster, Sirius. I don't know what I want to do. That's part of the problem." "You can't solve your problems by letting someone else decide for you," Hermione said practically. "Why not?" Harry asked, irritated. "Isn't that the whole point of the Seratstas thing, to find a mentor who will guide me into the right profession?" "Maybe, but it would help if you had an idea what you wanted to do first," Hermione retorted, then sighed. "Harry, this just isn't like you, letting someone else tell you what to do with your life." "Much you'd know about it," Harry said, and he was surprised at the bitterness in his voice. "I've never had much of a choice, have I? First the Dursleys, trying to keep me hidden and ordering me about. Then I come here, and everyone just expects me to take on Voldemort. Why should I bother trying to make any decisions when the Ministry or someone like Dumbledore is just going to choose for me?" "Because you'll hate it," Hermione said crisply. "You know you will, Harry. A year from now, you'll wake up and find yourself trapped in something that you hate doing, and it will destroy you. and maybe I'll like it. Everyone keeps telling me what a wonderful tradition this is, how much good it will do me. When have you ever cared so much about tradition? Hermione countered. Maybe I just want someone to care about me. Harry returned hotly, feeling a bit defensive. His words rang in the air, and they were both silent for a few long moments. Oh, Harry, Hermione said sadly. I had no idea. Harry stared at the table, unable to meet her eyes. Why wouldn't I want someone to love me? I deserve it just as much as anyone. Yes, of course you do. But... She reached over to touch his shoulder. You know this isn't about love, Harry. If you go into it looking for the romance of your life, you could get very hurt. Alright, so I'll settle for the best sex of my life, Harry said, trying for a light-hearted tone. Hermione shook her head and sighed. As if you could ever settle for anything. Be very, very careful, my friend. I don't want to see your heart get broken. Harry flushed, and pleading the need for a shower and clean clothes, escaped up to his room. Finally enclosed in the quiet sanctuary of his bed, he lay staring up at the canopy and tried to recapture that heady feeling of being kissed into oblivion, of being wanted, even if just for a few minutes of unbridled lust. His body refused to cooperate, though, and with a frustrated growl, he rolled over, pulled the pillow over his head, and tried to go to sleep. Whoever said that things would look better after a good night's sleep must have been a bloody idiot, Harry thought as he morosely poked at his breakfast. Here it was, morning, and nothing seemed any clearer in his mind. He was still faced with 2 suitors and still had no bloody idea what he wanted to do with his life, and hadn't his language taken an abysmal turn for the worst? He couldn't help a snort of laughter at the idea that he was scolding his own self for bad language, and Ron grinned at him across the table. That's better, mate. Thought I was going to have to practice cheering jumps on you. Sorry, Ron, Harry said, sighing as he went back to playing with his eggs. I've got a lot on my mind this morning. My things didn't go well then, Ron asked, actually looking a little relieved at that thought. No, they went all right, Harry said. Better than I thought, actually. Can't tell you the details till I get the official contracts, of course, but they're pretty interesting. Doesn't mean I'm going to accept, he added hastily, seeing the frown on Ron's face. Ari, Ron said with a sigh. It's all right. I'm not going to throw a wobbly if you accept one of them. It's a little weird to think of you that way with a bloke, but you're my friend. He thought for a moment. Well, it's more than a little weird to think of you with Snape. Harry grinned. Tell me about it. He thought about telling Ron how good a kisser Snape was, then decided his friend wouldn't appreciate that information. It felt good to sit here talking with Ron like old times, and he wasn't about to spoil it. Lately, his friend had been so absorbed with his new relationship with Hermione that Harry had been feeling quite left out. He missed the old camaraderie and realized with a pang that in just a few short months, they'd all be going their separate ways. Hermione was going on to university, Ron had his eye on Auror training, and Harry... An unfamiliar-looking owl dropped an envelope on the table in front of him, and he stared at it in trepidation. Surely it was too soon for the contracts to arrive. The owl hooted at him impatiently, and, with a murmured apology, he fed it some scraps from his breakfast and then opened the letter. It was from Sirius, and he breathed a sigh of relief. Harry, I did a little checking up on your new friend, and he appears to be on the up and up. Family well known and respected, finances sound, some influential friends, but nothing in the dark variety. Seems to have mostly drifted about since he left school, but then so did yours truly. A bit on the flashy side, according to some, and likes the fast life, which does have me a bit puzzled as to why he ended up teaching at Hogwarts. But stranger things have happened. Nothing saying you couldn't do better. But throwing your lot in with him wouldn't be the worst mistake you could make. Speaking of which, your other friend is definitely one. A mistake. Word on the street is that he has the life expectancy of a gnat, now that you know who is back. Seems he wasn't pleased to find out his little spy was double-crossing him. Take my advice and steer clear of him. Are you certain you don't want me to see who else I can dig up? A friend of a friend says he can hook you up with some of the hottest wizards in London if you could just wait till summer. Oh, my love. S. Harry groaned and considered banging his head on the table. Sirius was going to drive him insane before this was over. It was almost enough to make him just grab one of his suitors and have it done with. Everything all right? Ron asked anxiously. Fine, Harry said, mindful of listening ears around them. It's just that friend of mine, the one with the dog. He's going on about my 2 new friends, wants me to wait till summer when I can make other friends. He slid the letter over to Ron for him to read. This whole thing is driving me crazy. What you need is a break, Ron said firmly. Forget this whole business for a couple of days. Come to Hogsmeade with us this weekend, and Mom wants you to come home with me for Easter break if the headmaster will let you. Harry grinned. He hadn't the slightest idea what he wanted to do with his life, but he wasn't about to waste what time he had left with his friends by moping about the place. Sounds wonderful. Count me in.